What's going on, guys? This is John Zakari, and with Nintendo recently announcing it's dropping support for the Wii U soon, I want to start to look back at the console, starting today with a talk about the Wii U GamePad. I've been open with the fact that I was not a fan of the Wiimote and Nunchuck on the Wii. It was easily my least favorite control style of any system I've ever owned. So when Nintendo was rumored to have something new in the works, I was praying whatever it would be would have a traditional controller, and what I got was the Wii U GamePad. During the first reveal of the Wii U, I didn't care for it at all. The ways it was used in the announcement trailer were incredibly gimmicky, which made me think we were looking at another Wii, and the games themselves just didn't look fun at all. Plus, I wasn't sure if this was in fact a new system or just a new Wii peripheral. Now, many others were similarly more confused than excited after the console's initial announcement, so Nintendo kinda took another shot at it the following E3. We saw a lot of gimmicks, but there were some implementations that piqued my interest. Some were simply additions to existing games, while others were games built solely around the gamepad. Now, I'm always a sucker for new consoles, so even though my hype was on the fence, I was going to buy the system regardless. The console released the following holiday, and I'll say, even though many others hate on the launch lineup, I was pleased with it. Not blown away, but enjoyed it. Since I had played many of the ports on other consoles, I only bought the exclusives on launch. The pack-in game Nintendo Land served as the system's Wii Sports, showcasing some of the possible gamepad implementations through minigames. Even though I wasn't crazy about most of them, I have to say my friends and I played the hell out of Luigi's Ghost Mansion. To me, this was one of the best uses of the gamepad we actually ever got on the Wii U. One character controlling the ghost on the gamepad, invisible to the players on the main screen, trying to catch him with their flashlights before he grabs them. So simple and so much fun. Zombi U is a title I've gone on and on about in several other videos, so I don't want to talk too much about it here, but yeah, survival horror, as I've stated many times, is my favorite game genre, and Zombi U offered up new methods of creating tension with the gamepad, as you had to use the gamepad to go through your character's backpack to search for items, which did not pause the game, leaving you vulnerable to the undead onslaught. I admittedly succumbed to the stress in multiple moments, accidentally grabbing the wrong item as the dead closed in. The game laid awesome groundwork, and I am still very disappointed we didn't get a sequel. But hey, if I'm going to talk about games I want a sequel for, The Wonderful 101 has to be my biggest talking point. In my opinion, this will go down as possibly the most underrated game on the Wii U. Not only did we get the crisp platinum action, but some more awesome uses of the gamepad. The Wonderful 101 could join together to form weapons, and you drew the weapon you wanted them to form on the gamepad. Not only that, but the bigger you're drawing on the gamepad, the more characters would join in together to make a bigger weapon appear in the game. In addition, there were moments in the game where the gamepad would provide you with a sort of third-person view near your party, while the main screen would still provide you with a bigger overview, and you'd have to solve puzzles ping-ponging between the main TV and the gamepad. This all added another layer to the gameplay, requiring an even higher level of hand-eye coordination than your typical action game. Games like these were what I'd consider gamepad successes. Not only were they built with the gamepad in mind and function well, but I couldn't see myself playing them without the gamepad features. But everything wasn't so great with the gamepad, especially in the early days. Even though New Super Mario Bros. U had a neat use with the gamepad being used to place blocks to help or hinder others in multiplayer, it still seems incredibly dumb to me that you couldn't simply use the gamepad to control a character in multiplayer, making it useless for those just wanting to play co-op. With the gamepad working as the primary controller in single player, I just don't understand the reasoning behind not offering it as a control option in multiplayer. Maybe just a way to sell more Wiimotes and Pro Controllers, I don't know. More simple oversights like this made games more awkward with the gamepad. Probably the more divisive thing I'll say on here is my issue with comfort and practicality. The gamepad didn't necessarily feel bad, but in my opinion it did not feel as good as a Pro Controller, which I also felt handled better. And then there's the terrible battery life. The gamepad's pack-in battery only lasts about 3 to 5 hours, meaning it had to be constantly charged up. This was particularly frustrating when using the gamepad as the primary screen. Yes, better batteries were made available eventually, but that's an additional cost. Many developers, including Nintendo, eventually seem to have recognized the shortcomings of the gamepad, or at least the consumer's general disinterest in it, and went down routes that were more optimized for the Pro Controller. In the second half or so of its life, very few games seemed built to take advantage of the Wii U's gamepad. Still, many games had small benefits like providing you a map, screen, or inventory, but not many games seemed to greatly benefit from the Wii U gamepad, rendering it sort of useless in terms of features that added to a game's experience. And when games did take advantage of the gamepad, and in my opinion did so rather well, as in the case of Star Fox Zero, those games were often bashed by both critics and players at large for being too much of a far departure from the control styles they're used to. This brings me to one of my oldest questions about the Wii U, and that's, would it have been better if the gamepad was optional from the start? Let's remember, this is an expensive piece of hardware. I remember when Nintendo started selling replacement gamepads in Japan, they were like over $100 American. I mean, with hindsight being 2020 and all, what would replacing it with a Pro Controller in the actual console box and offering the gamepad as a deluxe type accessory for certain games have done for the system? Would the cost be more appealing? Would games be easier to port to the Wii U? Would more third parties have stuck around if they didn't have to deal with the gamepad? Sure, it wouldn't have stood out as much, but that didn't seem to help the console much anyway. Of course, we'll never know, just something I've often thought about. But the gamepad had one standout feature that would really pave the way for Nintendo's next system. And that, of course, was the off-TV play. Nothing like being able to play these major titles while laying in bed or in any other intimate setting. I didn't log as much time with off-TV play as I did on the TV, but boy, it was pretty damn close. It even felt nice if you wanted to run a show or movie on your main TV without needing to even pause your gameplay. Such a fantastic idea that was only limited by one thing: the gamepad's link to your Wii U console. Since games were streamed to the gamepad from the main system, you had to be within a fixed range to experience uninterrupted play. Yep, we all felt the same level of despair when we first tried to bring our gamepad to the bathroom and that broken connection message popped up. A sad day indeed. But Nintendo looks to rectify this issue with its upcoming console, the Nintendo Switch. The Switch aims to solve the biggest issue with arguably the Wii U's greatest feature by making the tablet the system, so we'll be able to bring our experiences literally anywhere. So while the Wii U gamepad had its pros and cons, it paved the way for the Switch. While the Wii U wasn't Nintendo's finest hour, they could bounce back with the Switch, especially if they managed to bring over the handheld crowd both in respects to the gamers and developers, as Nintendo handhelds continue to be smash hits. If the Switch can succeed by expanding on what was offered with the Wii U and the gamepad, then perhaps rather than just a failed system, we'll look back on the Wii U as a stumbling step towards a great console. And with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know how you'll remember the Wii U gamepad in the comments. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.
すご